Hey, and we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Welcome to the Video Guys NewsDay Tuesday. Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You give us 30 minutes, we're going to tell you about the technology we sell. I am happy to report, if we can bring that graphic back up, that we are available directly from our website. If you go to videoguys.com/live, you can see the live YouTube feed during the day. I know people say sometimes it's hard to find your feed, or you go look for it on Facebook, and if you scroll off of it, you lose it. So you can always find our live videos now on videoguys.com/live. Today's show, Telestream streaming bundles. These bundles are based on the Wirecast software and some Telestream hardware, as well as PTZOptics cameras, the Xkeys controller, NewTek NDI Sparks. It's about NDI workflows enabling Wirestream, and where we're really focused on this is bundles for House of Worship. We've got a special guest on the show, Paul Richards, who I'm going to introduce shortly. He put together these bundles and this concept of let's put some stuff together that's really easy for House of Worship. Now, just because they're for House of Worship doesn't mean a school, a corporate, anyone can use it. But we felt it was really important to target these kits to House of Worship because of the simple reason that many times the operator is a volunteer. So we wanted to show you something that, yeah, it takes a little bit of time to set it up. But once you set it up and get it going, you can train a volunteer very easily to run a show that could be a really great show. So without any further ado, let's bring in my man Paul Richards from PTZOptics and Stream Geeks, and overall cool technology guy. Paul, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me, Gary. I'm so glad to be here.
Very cool. Now, I'm bringing up the slide that talks about the contest. But before we get into the contest, I want you to talk about this because you gave me a call on the phone and you said, hey, Gary, I got this real exciting idea. What do you think about this? And I said, that's a great idea. How come I didn't think of it? You got together with some really cool people in the industry and you put together these bundles. So talk a little bit about the bundles and why you selected the different vendors to participate.
Well, I guess I would say it started with Wirecast. You know, Wirecast has a brand new product called the Wirecast Gear, which is integrated into our pan-tilt zoom cameras. And this camera right here is our NDI HX camera. And you can control it directly through Wirecast. And what that does for end users is it allows a single video production person to control multiple cameras. And that's been kind of a light bulb from a very simple perspective, where if you only have one volunteer or one or two people operating a church stream, which is generally the case, now that one or two people can do all the camera switching, all the live streaming, and control the pan-tilt zoom cameras. And Gary, I think you played a key role in the creation of this product here. And this is the Wirecast Gear controller, which is completely designed for Wirecast. And I absolutely love this product. It's totally out of the box, makes for volunteers, for people who are just getting started with live streaming, the ability to very simply and easily have a physical keyboard so that all those nested menus and the advanced Wirecast streaming software are all now available directly through a hardware interface. This makes learning for somebody who's learning streaming or even an advanced production expert really so much easier. So if you've got a workflow, which I suggest having like all the cameras on layer 4, you know, maybe you've got your media on layer 3, maybe you've got your images on layer 1, and then I don't know if you've seen this, Gary, but someone told me this. You know, Wirecast has 5 layers. If you need to quickly clear the layers, you no longer have to click 5 buttons. You simply run your finger down that. But this has been a game changer for Wirecast users. Yeah. And then finally, sorry.
I just want to say thanks for giving me credit. All I did was beg Telestream to get me something like this, and I happen to have said that these guys and a couple other guys were great guys, but we knew the Xkeys guys because they'd been doing dedicated controllers for the vMix crowd for about a year and a half, and everyone absolutely loved it. So we're in love with this product, and if we could, yeah, here it is. It's fantastic. I've got guys who put graphics in it in the buses. Once you start doing this, you can program it for anything you want. And that's the beauty of Xkeys. It's completely flexible like no other controller I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in love with it, especially in the House of Worship market where volunteers, people who are just getting started, when you see a physical button, like you might not know where Wirecast Rendezvous is. That's the ability to bring in live callers from around the world. in Wirecast because it's a new feature. It's kind of nested in the menu. But when you see that big button right there, or opening up the audio mixer, some of these things take multiple clicks to get to. Now you got a simple button. You know exactly where it is. You can build it into your muscle memory, if you will, and it just makes operating live streaming that much easier and more effective.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about worship a little bit. We have an article from Church Production Magazine, 5 steps to your best church streaming system. So I just want to read them down, and then we'll just talk about them all together. Step number 1 is to leverage as much existing equipment as possible. Obviously, it's a tight budget. Step number 2 is selecting a video mixer. 3 is selecting whatever additional cameras you need. 4, can't stress this enough, working with volunteers. It's not, if you have a trained professional AV person in your church, that's great if he'll volunteer or she will. But the truth is, you get the person who's just got the time and the ability to give, and you want to make it as easy as possible. And finally, outreach programs and additional benefits. So House of Worship is a fantastic market for us, but video and video streaming is a fantastic way for House of Worship to expand their reach. Or perhaps they've got some members of their church family who can't come to church anymore for whatever reasons. Maybe they moved to Arizona and your church is in, New York. Maybe they got sick, or maybe they're homebound, or something else is going on, or the kid's gone off to school, but they still want to participate in what is that home. It lets you kind of keep your home roots. Faith, worship, it's one of those things that I think in this day and age kind of some people get jaded on, but to me the most important thing about that is it really ties you to your community through faith in a way that, no matter where you are, that's what you were brought up with, that's what you believe, that's what you have inside of you. But with video, you can still be a part of it and participate in it. And I just think it's streaming video for worship, I just think it's fantastic. I think it's great for everyone involved. It's one of those true win-win-win situations.
Yeah, it really is a win-win from every perspective. My wife has moved to live with me in Philadelphia. Her home church, the Lutheran Church in St. Louis, Missouri. She still gets to stay connected. And then on the flip side of the people actually watching, there's the younger generation that is able to come in and maybe is interested in technology. And it goes beyond just the AV room, but the bands on stage are now able to be recorded, and they can show that footage and that video editing, to further their career. So everyone involved, from the church to the people operating the technology to the viewers, everyone really benefits.
I agree completely, and I brought up this workflow slide that we'll talk about a little bit, but one of the things I want to stress here is we're focusing on worship because that's kind of where this idea sprung for these bundles. But if you're a corporate video, if you're event video, if you're school video, these work just as well. It's not just for worship. We just feel that it's these fit very well in that vertical. And let's go through what's in one of these bundles the way we see it. So we've got the ability to have up to 4 cameras into a Wirecast Gear system, HDMI or SDI, depending on which Wirecast Gear you go with. We've got the Xkeys controller. We've got a Roland mixer, audio mixer. We've got the Spark Connects that allow you to bring in other cameras through NDI. And of course, we've got the PTZOptics NDI cameras. Now, I want to bring Paul back in as soon as we can on this, because what I really want to talk about is something you and I both pushed for that's now available and working great in Wirecast. You mentioned it earlier, and that is the ability to control the cameras through NDI, through Wirecast. I want to talk about NDI a little bit. I do this every show, and to make sure people understand it, NDI not only replaces the HDMI or SDI connectivity that would run the video from your camera to your device, but now with Wirecast and the Xkeys controller, you actually get two-way control. So through that same giggy camera now, we can tell the camera, pan, tilt, zoom, do what you got to do, and we even could get tally going. So it's real exciting what you could do with NDI and what NDI opened up. And the truth of the matter is you can run Wirecast, and we'll show that bundle too, on a Mac or a PC with NDI without the Wirecast Gear hardware. The NDI opens up so much for PTZ. And PTZ, we always said, saves you the camera operator. So if you're doing shows and stuff like that in a few months, if you were paying people to work a camera, it makes it easier. But what NDI with PTZ makes capable is really for a single person to produce an incredibly high quality show.
Yeah, it really does. And for a church or anyone out there, knowing that you can actually control the camera from a smartphone, right? So here I am controlling the camera from an iPhone. It could be controlled from an iPad or an Android. The control options from just a normal phone or all the way up to the NewTek NDI studio monitor are really becoming quite incredible. I don't want to get too technical, but NDI can support multicast, which allows an unlimited amount of, well, almost unlimited amount of devices to connect to the video from the camera. So that allows you to have camera operators on your local area network that aren't directly connected to the camera itself. They're just on the same local area network. So there's just so much that can be done from monitoring the cameras, controlling the cameras, and potentially displaying either the cameras or your mixed Wirecast output on an overflow monitor. I know a lot of churches have nursing homes attached to them. They have early education areas and lobbies with displays that they want to be able to show the church services on, and that's all be able to be done with the NewTek NDI.
And also remember, there's certain big holidays in any religion where a lot more people show up, and that's when they put the extra room out there too. And now it used to be the extra room had to be like the back of the room with the accordion door. Now that room could be downstairs or anywhere in the church or temple to get the extra people who are in the room. So overflow is important. I want to talk about the first base bundle that you put together, because I think this is important, because for under $3,000, if you've got a laptop, you can now be producing a streaming show. And you can use a desktop also, but you can get the Wirecast Pro software, you get a PTZOptics NDI camera, and you're gonna get the audio mixer for $3,000. And this is, Paul, we had a great conversation at NAB, if you remember, about how we thought, we talked together, we said, you know, I think we're all missing a market, because Wirecast is just as good on a Mac as it is on a PC. And there's so many people who have a MacBook or an iMac or even a Mac Mini who want to do something like this, but connectivity was always a problem because they didn't have jacks. You couldn't put cards in them. They didn't have the I/O capabilities. But with NDI, you don't need I/O. All NDI devices, all you need is a network connection. And now you could have a MacBook Pro or an iMac, and you can control a complete production for $3,000 complete with this. And if you had, let's say, an extra camera that was your existing camera, we could hook you up with a Connect Spark to it for, say, $500. Now you have a 2-camera shoot coming in, including the NDI camera. So I'm really happy about this one, and I think you and I talked about it, but we need to do a follow-up show about PTZOptics, Wirecast, and Mac operations specifically.
I think it's important because the Mac users like to see the demonstrations on Mac hardware clearly. All this is backwards compatible, whether it's Mac or PC. But using the Macs are great, and like you said, I mean, that bundle doesn't have any capture cards in it. This is all going over your local area network, which people want to use. You generally have a gigabit network in place, so why not use it? And there's no need to buy those expensive capture cards and PCIe inserts, which don't even work with Macs anyway.
Cool. Now let's talk about the next bundle, and that's with the Wirecast Gear hardware. Now, I want to talk about the Wirecast Gear hardware specifically for a moment, because a lot of people say, well, I could just get a computer, get a laptop, and get some I/O from, you know, Epiphan or Magewell, and I can do this whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, you can, but in the old days, we were a very big company in nonlinear video editing, and we would put up these DIY articles, build this computer, edit your video all day. We guarantee it'll work great, and it did. But because it wasn't an HP workstation or a Dell workstation, sometimes you had to deal with the fact that those computers crashed. Things happened. It didn't go as perfectly as you'd hope it would go. Well, in post-production, maybe you missed your deadline a little bit, or you got a little agita and anxiety. In a live show, you can't say, hey, folks, you're not married. We got to do this again. You know, we didn't get the whole thing on video. If it's a sporting event, you can't say, wait a second, that touchdown doesn't count. I missed it, you know. So I think when you're doing live production, it is important to go with a dedicated appliance or box like this, like the Wirecast Gear. And I'm going to pick it up, and it's going to get a little clunky over here, folks, but I apologize. But the folks at Wirecast Telestream really did a fantastic job with this. First of all, you can see it's a small form factor. But you've got your I/O right back here. So I've got on this one 4 HDMI inputs right here. I've got my additional stuff. It's a computer. This is a dedicated computer. Make no mistake about it. But it is optimized for running Wirecast. And what that means is you can push it to the wall, all 4 inputs, adding graphics, adding green screens, adding effects, doing audio mixing, and it's just going to keep working and plugging along. And I'm not going to knock do-it-yourself systems. I'm not going to knock finding a system that a guy buys, builds for you, and sends to you. But the truth of the matter is, if that guy's in your local town, he can help you out. By all means, go for it. But when you're not going to have that guy who could support you on the spot, I really think you're better served by a dedicated appliance like a Wirecast Gear. I know, Paul, you've got some feelings on that too, so shoot.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about it is it is a computer. So that means you can do a lot of advanced things with it beyond just using Wirecast. Now, of course, it is built for Wirecast. It marries perfectly, again, with this controller. So as soon as you plug this in, it's 100% set up. That's not always the case when you buy a standard Xkeys controller. But you can also do more advanced things with it. Like for our Wirecast Gear, we do have Dropbox installed, so that when we change our graphics with another computer, whether it's anywhere in the world, it's all synced up. So you do have the ability to run things additional to Wirecast, which I love as well. It's a Windows 10 system. It's rock solid. It's server grade. It's a rack unit almost. It's very thin, and there's USB ports on it as well.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we were doing for a while, and we should put this special back, is we were offering Edius, Grass Valley Edius, with the Wirecast Gear package, because Edius was always loved by the same-day edit crowd for its fast turnarounds, it's being real easy to edit, and it sucks up the footage natively that the Wirecast records its ISO streams to. So Edius will run on it, Vegas will run it, Premiere will run on it, Avid will run on it, but Edius is a good choice when you got to turn that thing around fast. But we find we need video editing as much for pre-production as for post-production. So we're post-producing our shows to trim it down for YouTube. If there's any mess-ups or glitches, we'll fix it up. But also, we put video clips in our shows all the time. Now, we have you live, so we don't have to roll the video. We've got the man himself. But we do a lot of pre-production video editing, and when you have a Wirecast, you don't need another box for that. So that you get a lot of utility out of it. So I want to review what's in this bundle. For $7,999, you get the Wirecast Gear 110, the Xkeys controller, you get a PTZOptics 12x NDI camera, and you get a Connect Spark HDMI, which means you can have two inputs. You get the Rubik's 2.2 USB audio interface, which, if you've listened to our shows for the last few years, you know at times we have audio issues, and since we've gone to this Rubik's mixer, we have gotten so much better. They have a family of mixers that we're going to get to later, but I really recommend them as a cheap, go-to, solid, steady audio mixer, which we know from experience, as you do, Paul. If the audio is good, people like your video better, and when your audio is bad, people find problems with your video, no matter how great the content was. So do not produce live video without putting the same care into audio that you do for video.
Yeah, and Wirecast has made some great upgrades with their audio, the way they handle audio, allowing you to really create a professional sounding live performance.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second bundle we have is with the Gear 210. That's the SDI bundle. Now, Paul and I were talking earlier. Now, this is the same pretty much thing. You get the 12X, the Xkeys, the Rubik's mixer. You don't get the Spark because it's SDI. Oh, you do get the Connect Spark HDMI because it doesn't matter because you're coming in NDI into the Wirecast. And you get the Wirecast Gear 210. It's a little bit more expensive. But Paul and I were talking about SDI, and Paul pointed out that in the worship market, he's seeing with his NDI, his non-NDI cameras, that SDI is still going strong. So I'm glad to see that that market appreciates the stability and the length runs you get from SDI, because I love HDMI, and it's great when you're in a tight little space and you're on a budget, but the truth of the matter is HDMI's got to be the world's worst connector ever made in the history of mankind. You can touch it and it falls out. It gets looser as it goes over time. It was not meant for plugging in and unplugging, plugging in and unplugging. So really you want to make those long runs with SDI. In fact, when we have people with an HDMI camera and HDMI mixer, we'll recommend a converter to SDI and then back from SDI, to the HDMI, or a converter on one end to SDI, because when you're going to make a long run, nothing's more reliable still than SDI. However, I will say that NDI makes long runs a thing of the past, because in most facilities, there are network jacks all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing today is that SDI is still the dominant connector in the market. People just seem to love it. If you look at the back of our camera, the great news is we have SDI, we have HDMI, and we have power over Ethernet, which can have NDI on it or not. You can upgrade later if you feel like you need it. But everyone's just knows that SDI, it just simply works. The cable is very high quality. It's sturdy. There's locking connectors, and churches are still recommending it really above any other type of video connector. Now, I will say there is one thing to think about is that if you're thinking about buying a PTZ camera, you're thinking about using SDI, the upgrade for NDI is $600, but if you purchase the camera with NDI, you'll save a couple $100, so it's something to think about.
Yeah, you save closer to $300, so we recommend that. Plus, to tell you the truth, if you should never is a strong word, but anyone investing in live production should make sure they're only investing in products that have NDI paths going forward. And NDI is worth investing in up front if you can save, that kind of money, because I guarantee it, you will be there. NDI is revolutionizing our industry. Now, I want to talk about the next bundle because it's with the Gear 230, and I was thinking, why do we have a bundle with the Gear 230? The Gear 230 has 4 SDI jacks, of which one could be an SDI output. And I was thinking, why does worship, who really needs an SDI output? And you said, Gary, you're missing it. Overflow. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so could be one of the top questions that we have with our cameras and with live streaming systems in the church market. How do we get video to our Overflow monitors? Now, Wirecast has done a great job by providing an SDI output. You can very easily run a SDI cable hundreds of feet. Again, incredibly reliable. Doesn't need to touch your network. It's just a home run right over to your output. And you can run an SDI to HDMI converter, plug right into your monitor. And people seem to like that a lot. Now, again, we did talk briefly about using NDI as an overflow monitor. But to do that, you do need some type of computer there. So this is an easy way to just rely on an SDI output, being controlled by our Wirecast Gear, and no need for a computer or an additional Ethernet drop at your Overflow.
Right. And we talked about using existing equipment, and a lot of churches, medium to bigger churches, have that SDI, switcher, mixer, routing already built in to power 2, 4, 6 different screens throughout the church and throughout the facility. So want to go over what's in this bundle. You're going to get the Wirecast Gear 230, the Xkeys controller. This one's got 2 PTZOptics cameras, a 12x and a 20x for the longer range shot. It's got the NewTek Connect Spark, so this is everything you need for a 3-camera shoot. And it's got the Rubik's Mixer, all for $12,999. And then we have another bundle that's the big kahuna bundle. We call it the ultimate bundle for NDI streaming. And that one's got the Gear 230, the Xkeys, the PTZOptics 12X, the 20X, the Connect Spark HDMI, the Rubik's 22 USB, and also a LiveU Solo and LiveU Solo graphics. We talked about LiveU a little bit during the IRL pre-show part of the show, but Paul, talk to us a little bit about LiveU Solo and how you love that product, because you've got to be their biggest fan.
Well, we use it quite a bit, and I want to speak specifically to the way churches are using it today. So churches are trying to do outreach programs. They're trying to connect to the younger generations who might not be coming to church as much as the older generations are. Allowing you to go completely mobile with a LiveU Solo allows you to go out into the streets, go out into the communities, or show pretty much anything, anywhere. So whether you want to show your pastor's day-to-day and be completely non-tethered with a camera to show the behind the stage. We talk to churches that are live streaming to Twitch. A lot of churches are trying to get younger men involved with the church, and that's a great place. It's a great demographic for that. But also, it can be used as a connection to your Wirecast Gear to provide really high-quality, reliable live streaming that can still leverage your Wi-Fi in your house of worship, your Ethernet connection as well, plus bonded cellular. So you can get a lot out of this, but I think that churches need to think about getting out of the church. It was hard for me. We have a live streaming studio here, and I was like, why would I want to leave the studio? I have every piece of technology I need here. Well, people respond to off the cuff, on the streets, behind the scenes, out in the real world. That's what some people need to see sometimes, and it's really going to open up your eyes to what you can do. Maybe you're doing a social, socially help with some local community for a nonprofit, showing that, and it really can help people connect to your church and your ministry.
Cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about LiveU Solo cellular bonding. We've done a bunch of shows on it, but the advantage of cellular bonding is we use 2 cellular modems. I recommend on 2 different carriers, so Verizon on one, Sprint or AT&T on the other, or T-Mobile. It doesn't matter which 2. Use the 2 that are the best in your area. But what this does is it takes the signal from both cells, puts them together in the LRT cloud so that you can get, being guaranteed, an HD stream for video. Now, this is real important. Let's talk about houses of worship. Sometimes your church isn't in a place that has good high-speed bandwidth. Some of you in rural areas, this takes care of it. Also, a lot of houses of worship we found might have an outdoor area, a tent where maybe you're doing a special event in the tent. Well, you can't repurpose all the gear, so you bring this out there. Now, you can use the LiveView on the output of the Wirecast. So the Wirecast HDMI goes into the LiveView. Now the LiveView can transmit your entire production where there was no internet, or what I really find churches are doing, and you hit the nail on the head, they're running and gunning with it. So this isn't necessarily being used in the studio, but this is being used where, or in the church itself, but maybe you're out there and you're going on a, not necessarily a mission, but maybe you're going to visit some parishioners in another part of town, or maybe you're doing something with a soup kitchen or a local charity. Now you can take a camera, put it on the LiveView, and go live from where you are to anywhere, and the signal's great. Moving around and walking, it's like cell service. It's incredibly reliable, and cellular bonding is a technology that I definitely recommend houses of worship look into. Maybe you can't get to it this year, but if you put it into your facility and put it into your videos, by the next year, you'll be wondering how you ever live without it. LiveU Solo, love cellular bonding. All right, let's review what's in these bundles, and if we can get the camera now to go down maybe to the screen of what's in there, I'll talk about that a little bit, but we're going to get you Wirecast, either as software alone or in a gear, and there's different flavors of the gear. We're going to get you PTZ camera, maybe one, maybe two. We're going to get you Connect Spark. We're going to get you, if you need it, the LiveView, which is over there too. We really love these bundles. Love the Xkeys controller, which is a part of all of them. So a really cool way to go with those. Let's review what the different Wirecast gears are, because we get questions about that all the time, and that is which are the different flavors. So we have the different bundles, but we also have the different flavors of Wirecast gear. And at Video Guys, one of the things we pride ourselves on is we have the ability to listen to you, what you need as the user. So maybe you see a bundle and you say, but I really am all SDI, but I want the 110 bundle, or I want this mix and match. We could create a custom bundle for you. Just because these things are in the can, that's for making it easier for you to order and understand. But we can customize these any way you want. You want 3 PTZ cameras, you got it. You want 2 Connect Sparks, you got it. You want a LiveU Solo with the 110 bundle, you got it. We'll work with you with whatever you need. Why? Because our goal is for you to have the best solution possible to deliver to your audience the videos that connect with them the strongest. And that's what video is really about, folks. It's that connection you get with your audience. It goes beyond what happens in print. It goes beyond pictures. Video is how you can really be building that bond. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, video is worth 1,000 hellos and smiles. You really connect with people. It's not the same thing as being there, but it's so close. And it's just in the worship world, it's a way to bring your community and grow your community. I can't talk enough about video for worship and how important it is. But now let me talk a little bit about what these 3 different gears are, if we can pull them up full screen. The Gear 110, $49.95, that's 4 HDMI ports, 250 gigabyte system drive, 250 gigabytes of storage. It'll hold 5 hours of video at the highest quality. It comes with new Blue Tidal Live. The Gear 210 substitutes the HDMI ports for SDI ports, 4 of them. 250 system drive gives you some more general storage, 500 gigabytes, and it gives you the new Blue Tidal Live Sport package, which has more live type of graphics. And the Gear 230 gives you 4 assignable SDI IOs, so you can have one of them feeding into an SDI distribution system, 250 gigabyte system drive, 2 terabytes of storage for 40 hours, and the new Blue Tidal Live competes. So it's a little more robust of a bundle for the people who want to go the full distance. I got to tell you folks though, if you're on a tight budget for $5,000, you're not going to find a better deal in the Wirecast Gear 110. All right. Paul, we talked a lot about the Xkeys controller. We picked it up, we showed it off, so I don't think I have to bring this slide up, but why don't we bring this slide full screen just for a little bit for the folks at home. But the truth of the matter is this thing's great. If you're using Wirecast, you want this controller. We offer great bundle opportunities to save money when you get a Wirecast Gear with an Xkeys controller. If you already own Wirecast Gear and you're looking to add an Xkeys controller and you don't have one already, give us a call. We'll hook you up. It's a great product. Next, the reason Paul's here, the PTZ cameras, the NDI cameras, PTZOptics. We love you guys. We've been with you guys for about 2 years now, I think, maybe 3. Tremendous success, folks. These are high quality cameras, gorgeous optics, work great, and you guys are always cutting edge, adding new firmware, adding new capabilities. You've got the NDI now. Why don't you walk us through the product line? You got a 12X, 20X, 30X. Take it away, Paul.
Yeah, so 12X, 20X, 30X, and they're available in gray and white. So these are the NDI models. There are also SDI models. We took a quick look at the back there. You can see these are power over Ethernet, so you can power it right over Ethernet. There is a line in if you want to bring a microphone in. You've got HDMI, you've got SDI, you've got traditional camera control, which is a serial camera control. So if you do have existing Sony cameras in that you want to replace those SD Sony cameras, you can still use either the HDMI or SDI, and then you can actually use those serial controllers as well if you have some of those in place. So it's a great replacement. And then the white cameras, here you can see the white camera a little better here. These are being really popular in houses of worship. In fact, the white NDI 30X cameras are our fastest growing camera models right now. And this is actually a 12X. This is the NDI model right here. I was controlling a little bit earlier. That gives you an idea. I mean, these are got a 3-year warranty. These are really some of the most popular cameras in the industry, specifically for house of worship, because they're the larger spaces. So if you have a church that you're trying to capture images from 100 feet away, consider the 30X. If you're a little closer in the 50 to 75 foot, consider the 20. And then there's a 12X. And there's one more thing that we didn't mention, Gary, but these are really popular.
Absolutely. The Z-cams.
These are the Z-cams here. Now, these can get a really close-up, wide-angle image. So they still have Ethernet and power over Ethernet, plus they have SDI, and this gives you the ability to really get close up on a drummer, on a piano. We're seeing these put in backstage areas to show a wide-angle shot of everything that's going on behind the scenes for a really fun pre-show. And these start at just, correct me if I'm wrong here, but $499, I believe they start at. And there's an NDI version as well that's less than $1,000.
Cool. And one of the things I want to stress is with the 30X, we talked about this a little bit, you and I, when we were going through our sound check, is 30X, a lot of people think, okay, it's 100 feet away, I got to run 100 feet of cable. Well, you don't. If you're NDI and there's a network jack back there, that's all you need. So the 30X with NDI is a match made in heaven, because a lot of times you wouldn't put that camera back there because the cable run became a problem. Now you don't have to worry about that. You just need to have a port.
There is one other thing, Gary, while we're here, we should mention, is that these are NDI HX cameras, and that's called high efficiency. So still incredibly high quality, just as good as SDI, minimal latency, but the network bandwidth on your network is going to be only 12 megabits for the highest 1080p at 60 frames a second quality. So if you're using just 5 or 6 NDI sources, you could actually max out a gigabit network pretty quickly, because some full NDI sources coming from a Wirecast to another Wirecast, for example, can be up to 150 megabits per second. So this allows you to have 4, 6, 8 cameras, even more, on a local area network that's only a gigabit. So it is something to think about. We have a complete video on the PTZOptics NDI page that explains some of the example setups, but 99% of people only have gigabit infrastructure right now, and they don't want to rip and replace it, obviously. They want to use what they have. So going with an HX high efficiency camera is really the way to go if you want to use, more than 5 or 6 normal NDI sources as well.
Great point. And this brings us to the NewTek NDI HX products, which are also part of these bundles. And the Spark is HX, and that's why it can operate over Wi-Fi with SDI or NDI. That's the Connect Spark, starting at $499 for HDMI or $795 for SDI. There's a brand new product that just launched called the Connect Spark Pro 4K. That is a pure full NDI product, so you will need the bigger bandwidth. And then NewTek has their own NDI camera for $2699, which is NDI HX. Want to talk a little about these Roland mixers. Audio has been a challenge for us. And I'm going to answer your question, Jorge, in a minute, but you can't use Sparks with Sling Studio. You have to use their camera links. The Roland mixer is a great little mixer, which does work great with Sling Studio. And we've been looking for an inexpensive USB audio mixer that was reliable, easy to set up, easy to use, and that some of the USB mixers get into firmware reset issues that before a show we'd be pulling our hair out. We have found with these Roland, the Rubik's really does a great job for us. We do the 2x2 for $149. I think people are shooting with more cameras or more mics. I'm really the talent here. You're coming in remote, Paul. But people who have multiple speakers, multiple people talking might want the 24. And the 4x4 is big brother. But here you go, 3 different audio mixes for under $400 from Roland. We think of Roland, if you know the video guys, as the guys who spell the video mixers. But if you're into a musician, then you know Roland makes great audio gear, and walk into any music store, any guitar store, I'm not going to say the names of the people, we all know them, but Roland's everywhere. So the audio quality of this is great. The other thing that Roland's come out with is cables, which we're now carrying. They have high quality Sdi and Hdmi cables. People always need them. You're used to going to one of the big box houses and being told it's $50 for a 6-foot cable. That's not what's going on here, as you can see. We've got 10-foot cables, for $17.99, pretty reasonable. We've also got short cables, which I think people need, those low-run 3-foot cables. With HDMI, I talked about the connector before. I don't love it. I want to go as short a lead as possible so that no one's tripping over any cables if I can. Paul, this is the part where I say goodbye to you and thank you for being on the show. As always, you were a phenomenal guest. Paul does PTZOptics, but he's also the Stream Geek show, which you guys go at what time normally is your show?
2 p.m. at 2 p.m. on Mondays is Stream Geeks.
And then watch us 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. There you go.
There's a schedule.
Perfect 1-2 punch. But the Stream Geeks is a great show. I know your partner in crime from that show is Tess. I don't know if she's back there or not, but love your show. We watch it here. Great information. And while you're always thinking about PTZOptics in your cameras, you guys really cover everything and anything. So here's a few seconds. Give us a last plug for the Stream Geek show.
Well, Stream Geek show is our chance to really cover anything in the market that we think is upcoming. There are so many new opportunities in live streaming. This IRL wireless stuff is just one great example, but monetizing shows with virtual tickets, working with all kinds of verticals. We're working with small businesses, car dealerships, different people in our local area just to show them what live streaming can do. And through that process, it's really a learning process that you can come along the ride for and see what it's like in the video production world. And I think we're uncovering niches in the market that apply globally. So you can learn how to make money with video production, find out how it works in your small business, your small town, big city, doesn't matter. There's just so many opportunities out there today.
Cool. Paul, thank you. There she is in the background. Paul, thank you so much. Going to get rid of you here. Say goodbye. Thank you very much. We're going to talk about what's coming up in our next few shows. So thank you very much. I think you're going to be on mute, but great show. Great show as always. Okay, what do we have coming up? Next week, we have a really cool show. I was at the NAB New York show and the Photo Plus show in New York also over the last couple of weeks. I spent some time in the LaCie and the NewTek booths, and it's amazing how many people ask questions about, like, how do I make sure my hard drive lasts as long as possible? How do I know it's working? How do I know it's giving me what I need? And I said, I'm going to go back to my old NLE roots and do a show where we really talk about hard drive maintenance. I know you think that sounds kind of crazy, but there are some steps you can take where you can make sure that your hard drive maximizes its lifespan and its performance. And there's also certain clues that hard drives give you when they're reaching the end of that usable life. So I want to review that. We're going to be talking about spinning disk hard drives, not SSDs, but I may compare SSDs to hard drives at a time. I think it's going to be a real informative, fun show. After that show, what we want to do is November 20th, we want to do a Black Friday show. Now, I got to give a disclaimer caution. Our show is on Tuesdays. Black Friday is on Friday. Thanksgiving is on Thursday. We may find out that the specials that we can talk about are embargoed till Wednesday. If that happens, we'll do a show Tuesday and a Black Friday show on Wednesday. So I apologize for that. We don't know what's going to happen. I see Eddie, his head just said, you can't do this to me. You're killing me. But we might have all the best specials under embargo. So we'll have to see. And then on the 27th, we're coming back with an Atomos show talking about Atomos. The Ninja 5 is a tremendous product. We talk about some Atomos workflows with G Technology and other storage partners and just their new Atom X, which gives them NDI output into NDI mixers like a NewTek TriCaster or a Wirecast Gear. So we're super excited about that show coming up too on Atomos. I want to thank everyone for coming to today's show. Today's show was brought to you by Telestream with their streaming bundles, and we had Paul from PTZOptics on the show. There's a contest that if you go to Stream Geeks, PTZOptics, you sign up to win a free bundle like this. This is Gary from Video Guys. We're here to answer your questions. 800-323-2325. Live people. Eddie and Christina running the show. They're the same people you can talk to about how to produce your own show. We went a little long this show, which happens sometimes when we have such a great guest like Paul Richards from Stream Geeks, but I really think we had a great show today, so I'm going to sign off quickly. Gary from Video Guys, peace.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.